My name is Max. I am an orange tabby, broad of chest, proud of whisker, and steady of paw. My human is Marcus Havel, though to most of the station he is simply the janitor. They see him pushing a cart down the wide halls, mop swaying, bucket clattering, eyes lowered in the posture of service. He nods at ambassadors, steps aside for drones, and hums old Terran songs under his breath as if he is nothing more than another cog in the Council's endless machine. But I know better. Marcus is not a cog. He is a blade, sheathed, but sharp. Once, long ago, he wore the armor of the Terran Marines and carried the weight of entire worlds on his shoulders. Now, his armor is a blue-gray janitor's uniform, and his weapon is patience. He cleans, he listens, he observes. A Terran intelligence operative. And I sit on his shoulder, my tail curling lazily, my ears tuned to everything his human senses cannot catch. Together, we see what others overlook. Before I curl up and nap through this whole story, can you do me a favor? Hit that little like button and subscribe. It helps keep the humans bringing me treats, and keeps the stories coming your way. Thanks. Now back to the important part, me and also the adventure. The Galactic Council Station is no ordinary habitat. It is a sprawling labyrinth of impossible geometry, spun like glass against the black ocean of space. Corridors twist at angles that defy sense, ceilings rise into vaulted heights lit by floating orbs, and the very walls hum faintly with energy, alive with the pulse of countless systems. Delegates from 100 worlds stride these halls, robed, armored, feathered, scaled, each carrying their own brand of importance. The station is meant to awe, and it succeeds. But beneath its shimmer, it is still a machine, and all machines have weak points. Socrates once told me, through Catcom, our name for the psychic network that connects all cats, that this station is less like a palace and more like a beast. Magnificent, but with soft organs beneath its plated skin. You and your human, he said, are among the few who can crawl beneath that plating and sense the pulse for what it truly is. Socrates always did have a way with words. His mind, when it brushes against mine, is dry and sharp like parchment left in the sun, but also warm with a patient humor. He and I speak often, though distance separates us. Max, he said only yesterday as Marcus scrubbed a stain from the floor near the Zephyrian delegation's chambers. Do you ever tire of pretending? You must watch your human bend his back and bow his head, all the while knowing he could break any of them in half should the need arise. I flicked my tail in response, though Catcom carried more than gestures. Marcus bends because it is wise. Those who are underestimated survive longer. He has not forgotten his marine training. He simply wears it beneath his skin now. Socrates purred across the link, amused but approving. A fair point. Still, it takes strength to live as a shadow when one was once a sword. That strength was soon to be tested. The first sign was subtle. Marcus and I were cleaning one of the lesser-used maintenance halls near the outer docking arms. It smelled faintly of ozone and coolant, as it always did. But there was something else that day. A sharp tang. Chemical. Almost acrid. My nose twitched, whiskers trembling. I padded to the base of a wall where a panel sat just slightly ajar. The air that leaked from within carried that scent. Marcus noticed my pause. He crouched beside me, eyes narrowing. He didn't speak, of course. He rarely spoke while we worked. It wasn't part of the role. But I saw his hand brush his mop handle in that subtle way of his, testing its balance like a soldier might test a rifle. Through Catcom, I sent the impression to Socrates. Unusual. Panel loose. Chemical trace. Marcus alert. Socrates' response came calm. Deliberate. Good work, Max. Watch closely. A disturbance so near the docking arms may not be coincidence. And so Marcus lingered, feigning the slow, bored motions of a man polishing the same square of floor twice. His eyes flicked to the corners, to the ceiling, to the cameras mounted like watchful insects above. Every sweep of his mop covered another careful step toward that panel. I perched atop his cart, tail curled tight, ears pricked to every hum of the walls. Nothing more happened then. No sudden ambush, no shadow slipping out of the hatch, but Marcus marked it in his memory, and so did I. On the surface, he wheeled the cart away, humming tunelessly. Beneath, the Marine in him had catalogued every detail. The scent, the panel, the angle of its misalignment. That night, in the tiny compartment that served as our quarters, Marcus cleaned his boots while I sprawled across the bunk. He said nothing, but his silence was weighty, like the pause before a storm breaks. I spoke to Socrates again across the distance. Something stirs. Marcus will act soon. The older cat's reply was soft but sure. Then keep your claws sharp, Max. Shadows breed predators, but so too do shadows shelter hunters. I purred quietly in agreement. For though Marcus wore the mask of a janitor, and I the role of a mere companion animal, we both knew the truth. A threat was coming, and when it arrived, we would be ready. The thing about humans, at least the well-trained ones like Marcus, is that they don't dismiss anomalies. Most people would shrug off a loose panel or a faint chemical scent. They'd assume a careless technician or a quirk of the station's vast machinery. Marcus didn't. He filed it away, a thread waiting to be tugged. Over the next few days, his routine became sharper, tighter. To the casual eye, he was still the same janitor, pushing his cart down halls, pausing to sweep corners, exchanging nods with security drones. But I could feel the difference in his posture. The set of his shoulders, the weight of his steps. He was alert now, ready for the thread to lead somewhere. And lead it did. We were assigned to clean a docking concourse after a late arrival from the Calthus sector. The concourse was deserted, save for a pair of drones floating on silent patrol. Marcus worked as always, but his eyes flicked toward the far wall. Another panel, this one secured improperly. Just enough for me to slip a paw in if I dared. I hopped down from the cart, padding casually across the floor as though chasing a dust mote. I pressed my whiskers against the seam of the panel and inhaled. The same acrid scent as before, faint but undeniable. Marcus's mop paused mid-swipe. His eyes caught mine, and in that silent way of ours, I knew he understood. Through Catcom, I sent the thought sharp and clear. Second panel. Same trace. Deliberate pattern? Socrates' reply came after a thoughtful pause, his mental voice like a ripple across still water. Panels near docking points. Chemicals, not maintenance, sabotage or preparation. Marcus must tread carefully. I flicked my tail, and Marcus resumed mopping, humming again. His act was perfect, indifferent, methodical, but beneath it, his mind was already drawing maps. Later, in a quieter corridor, Marcus stopped at a supply alcove. He bent to check the cleaning inventory, but really he was scanning a concealed monitor feed. His hands moved with practiced ease, pulling a small device from his belt. Compact, matte black, disguised as a mundane tool. He pressed it against the panel frame, reading the traces embedded in its surface. I perched on the cart beside him, tail draped over the edge, eyes half-lidded as though drowsy. In truth, my senses were fixed on the hall, ears twitching at the faint hum of a drone passing 3 turns away. Marcus's lips thinned. He slipped the device back into his belt and wheeled the cart onward. Not a word passed between us, but I felt the tension radiating from him like heat. That night, his silence grew heavier still. He sat on the bunk with a datapad in his hands, scrolling through maintenance logs. I curled on his lap, purring softly. Not just for comfort, but as a steady rhythm against which he could focus. Humans underestimate the usefulness of a cat's purr. It soothes, yes, but it also sharpens. Marcus's breathing slowed, his concentration deepened. Through Catcom, Socrates drifted back into my awareness. "You've confirmed it then?" "Yes," I replied. "Multiple points, chemicals placed, concealed behind panels, not random. Marcus suspects infiltration." "Wise of him." "The council's station is a grand edifice, but it was built by many hands, each pulling in different directions. Too many places to hide a knife. If Earth's envoys are the target. His thought trailed off, heavy with implication. John and Kate? I asked. Of course. Their presence here is both symbol and provocation. Many would prefer they not survive long enough to challenge the Council's complacency. My tail twitched, claws kneading Marcus's leg through the fabric of his uniform. He didn't flinch. He knew my moods, as I knew his. The next cycle, Marcus steered our work schedule toward the docking arms again. He volunteered for late shifts, where traffic was thin and scrutiny even thinner. I admired his patience. No rash moves, no sudden confrontations. He waited, observing patterns, charting guard rotations, listening to the silence. And it was in that silence we found our next clue. The corridor was dim, lit only by the faint glow of the energy conduits pulsing in the walls. Marcus moved slowly, dragging the mop across the floor with exaggerated care. I trotted ahead, ears pricked. Then I heard it, the faintest click, like metal on metal. I froze, tail stiff, ears angled toward the sound. Marcus halted behind me, mop mid-swing. There it was again. So soft a human might have missed it. A latch sliding into place. A panel sealing shut. I padded forward, pressing my whiskers against the wall. The scent was stronger here, acrid and bitter, tinged with something sharper still. Explosives. My fur bristled. Marcus's eyes narrowed. He adjusted his grip on the mop, every muscle in his frame shifting from worker to soldier. He took one step closer, head bowed, feigning focus on the floor. From beneath lowered lashes, his gaze swept the corridor. Empty. But not for long. Through Catcom, I sent the warning sharp as claws. Activity. Panel just closed. Explosives confirmed. Socrates' reply came swift. Be cautious, Max. If Marcus acts too soon, he risks exposure. But if he waits too long, the humans we guard may die. Precisely. I crouched low, ears flat, ready to spring at shadows if need be. Marcus shifted his mop into his left hand and let his right brush the concealed blade at his hip, one no scanner had ever found, hidden in the handle of a janitor's tool. We had stumbled into a nest. The question now was, how many snakes hid within it? The station never truly sleeps. Even in the quiet hours, its walls breathe with energy, drones hum their patrols, and distant voices echo through cavernous chambers. But on this night, if one can call the cycle of artificial lights a night, the docking arm was nearly empty. A silence hung there, taut as a wire, and Marcus followed it like a hunter tracking game. I padded along the railing, tail low, whiskers twitching. The acrid tang of explosives still lingered in the air, sharper now, mixed with the oily musk of sweat. Someone had been here recently. Someone who did not belong. Through Catcom, I reached for Socrates. We are close. The scent trails fresh. Marcus is alert. His reply was steady, calm, like the voice of an elder guiding from afar. Good. But remember, danger near humans rarely comes alone. The blade you see is rarely the only one drawn. Marcus pushed his cart with that same patient rhythm, mop swaying idly, yet his eyes flicked constantly. Ceiling cameras, shadows near junctions, vent grills. He was painting a mental map. I could feel it. Every step, every pause was deliberate. We reached the panel that had clicked shut hours before. Marcus crouched, pretending to adjust the cart's wheel. His hand brushed the panel's seam, fingers tracing its edge. A faint residue clung to his skin, metallic and bitter. He didn't need me to tell him what it was, but I leaned close, whiskers brushing the gap. The chemical sting made my nose twitch violently. Yes. Explosives. Marcus straightened, eyes unreadable, and resumed mopping. But I could feel the shift in him, the coil of readiness tightening. Then came the sound. Footsteps. Soft, measured. Not the heavy tread of a patrol drone or the brisk stride of a delegate. This was someone who knew how to move unseen. I froze, crouching low atop the cart. Marcus angled the mop just so, as though wringing out its head, and positioned himself to see past the corner. A figure emerged. Humanoid, though wrapped in a matte black cloak that blurred their outline. Their face was hidden by a mask, reflective and cold. In their hands, a case, slender, unmarked, too carefully carried to be anything but dangerous. Through CATCOM, I sent the thought sharp. Target sighted, cloaked, carrying case, likely weapon or detonator. Socrates' mental presence leaned closer, his tone a low growl. Marcus must be swift. If they are setting charges, time is already against him. Marcus did not attack, not yet. Instead, he lowered his head and pushed the cart forward, humming softly, as though unaware. His steps carried him closer, each one a gamble, each one shielded by the mask of mundanity. The figure glanced at him, then away. A janitor was no threat. That was Marcus's camouflage, and it held. For the moment. The cloaked one knelt at the panel, opening the case. I stretched forward, ears straining. Inside were coils of wire, crystalline charges, and a device that pulsed faintly with inner light. My fur bristled. This was no simple sabotage. This was a weapon designed to breach the very bones of the station. Marcus slowed, mop pausing mid-swipe. He adjusted his grip subtly, left hand steadying the cart, right brushing once more against the hidden blade. The figure's hands moved deftly, connecting wires, adjusting settings. They worked quickly, with the confidence of someone who had rehearsed this many times. Through CATCOM, I hissed the warning. It is an attack. They mean to strike soon. Socrates' reply was grim. Then Marcus must act now, or John and Kate may not see another dawn. Marcus shifted. One step closer. Another. The figure remained focused on their work, oblivious to the shadow looming behind them. Then, without a sound, Marcus struck. The mop clattered to the floor, its hollow rattle masking the swift hiss of steel drawn from concealment. His arm looped around the assassin's neck, blade pressed to the seam of their mask. The figure jerked, tried to twist, but Marcus was stronger, faster. He wrenched them backward into the shadows, pinning them against the wall with a force that stole their breath. I leapt down, landing silently beside him, eyes gleaming. The assassin's masked gaze flicked toward me in panic, as though a cat could not be part of the danger. They never understand until it is too late. Marcus's blade pressed harder. His voice, low and calm, broke the silence for the first time in days. Who sent you? The assassin hissed through their mask, words muffled but venomous. The council will not fall to Earth's vermin. Marcus's jaw tightened. With practiced efficiency, he slammed the figure's head against the wall. The thud echoed faintly, then silence. Their body went limp. Through CATCOM, I whispered to Socrates. Neutralized. Threat confirmed. Marcus has control. The older cat's mental purr was approving, but tinged with warning. One knife does not make a war, Max. Where there is one, there are more. Marcus checked the corridor, then crouched over the unconscious figure. His hands moved with quiet speed, dismantling the device, pulling wires, disarming the charges. I watched closely, ears twitching at every faint click. He dismantled the weapon piece by piece, tucking components into the hidden compartments of his cart. Within minutes, nothing remained but inert scraps. He exhaled, slow and steady, then dragged the body toward the shadows of a maintenance hatch. I patted at his side, tail flicking. He would need to dispose of it carefully. Too much noise, and the council's security would swarm. As he worked, I sent one last thought across CATCOM. Socrates, the humans we guard remain unaware, but the blade was close this time. His answer was heavy with certainty. It will not be the last, Max. The shadows grow thicker. You and Marcus must stay sharper still. I glanced up at Marcus. His face was calm, but his eyes, those eyes knew the weight of what had just passed. He had saved lives without them ever knowing. And tomorrow, he would once again push his cart, mop the floors, and play the role of a man no one noticed. But I noticed. And I would not forget. The body was heavier than it looked. The cloak was sleek, the frame wiry. But dead weight is dead weight, and Marcus bore it with the ease of a man who had carried comrades through fire. He dragged the limp figure toward a maintenance hatch, each motion smooth, deliberate, never rushed. I padded alongside, my paws soundless against the deck. My tail flicked in rhythm with his steps. I had seen Marcus clean blood before. Too much of it, in other times, other places. This was no different. To him, violence was not passion. It was work. The hatch hissed open, revealing a narrow shaft descending into the bowels of the station. The hum of energy conduits vibrated faintly through the air. Marcus eased the body inside, maneuvering with care so it would not clatter against the walls. He descended halfway, then wedged the corpse into a seam where pipes and wiring thickened like tangled roots. From his belt, he produced a small vial, its contents glimmering faintly. He broke it against the cloak. A sharp chemical odor filled the shaft, acrid and biting. The liquid seeped quickly, dissolving fabric, flesh, and bone alike. Within moments, what had been a threat to John and Kate was nothing but dark residue, trickling away into the station's hidden systems. I crouched at the edge, whiskers trembling at the smell. Marcus climbed back out, closing the hatch with a quiet hiss. His face was unreadable, his motions clean, precise. The efficiency of a soldier who had done this before, many times. Through catcom, I whispered to Socrates, "Body neutralized, weapon dismantled. Marcus leaves no trace." The older cat's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Good." Yet my whiskers itch with unease. If one assassin found their way into the station, others may lurk. The council is vast, its shadows deeper than any one human can sweep away. "Marcus is not alone," I replied, curling my tail around my paws. "He has me. He has you, at distance. He has Earth Command. Together, we weave the net tight." Socrates' purr resonated faintly across the link, not quite amusement, not quite comfort. "True enough, Max. But nets catch fish best in calm waters. These seas are storming." Marcus collected the dismantled weapon parts from the cart's hidden compartments. One by one, he dropped them into the recycler slot built into the maintenance alcove. The machine whirred softly, reducing circuits, wires, and crystals into harmless shards and powder. To anyone who checked, it would seem nothing but scrap had ever passed through. When the last piece vanished, Marcus wiped his hands on his uniform and picked up his mop once more. He straightened his back, adjusted his cart, and resumed his role. A man with no secrets, a man no one saw. I leapt back to my perch on the cart, curling into a loaf with my eyes half-lidded. To the cameras, I was simply a lazy station cat, hitching a ride with a janitor. To Marcus, I was watchful eyes and sharpened ears. To Socrates, I was a link in the chain that kept Terran lives safe. We returned to our quarters in silence. Marcus shed his gloves, washed his hands, and sat at the desk with a secure terminal. He keyed a sequence, his face calm, his voice low. "Havel to Earth Command. Threat neutralized. Device dismantled. No casualties. Council delegates unaware. Await further instruction." The terminal blinked, a soft pulse of acknowledgement. Marcus shut it down, leaned back, and exhaled. For a moment, the mask slipped, the weight of memory pressing against his features. His eyes closed, and his hand reached to scratch the back of my neck. I leaned into it, purring softly, a steady rumble to anchor him. "Through catcom," Socrates murmured, his tone quieter now. "Your human carries burdens most could not. He wears his silence like armor, but even armor wears thin." "That is why I stay," I replied simply. "To remind him that not all weight is his alone." Wise words, Max. Perhaps wiser than most humans would guess from a cat's mouth. I let my eyes close, tail curling tighter. The station thrummed around us, vast and restless. Somewhere beyond, John and Kate spoke with delegates, unaware of the knife that had hovered so near their throats. They would never know, and perhaps that was best. Marcus would wake tomorrow, don his uniform, and push his cart again. He would scrub floors, empty bins, and nod politely to beings who could never imagine the truth of his hands. And I would sit upon his shoulder, tail swaying, eyes ever watchful. For in the end, This was our purpose. Not to be seen, not to be praised, but to guard in silence. A janitor and a cat, sweeping shadows from the edges of the light. The station's corridors gleamed as if nothing had ever stirred in their shadows. Delegates came and went in their silken robes, drones floated on prescribed routes, and the council's business droned on like an endless hymn. To them, it was another cycle in the life of bureaucracy. To us, it was a day stolen back from death. Marcus pushed his cart through the central concourse with the same rhythm as before, mop in hand, sleeves rolled up, expression bland. No one looked at him twice. That was his gift. Invisibility. A soldier who had once commanded fire and steel now found power in being overlooked. I lounged in my accustomed perch, tail wrapped neatly around my paws, eyes half shut. To passers-by, I was a mascot, a lazy creature who existed only for scraps and sleep. They never saw the way my ears tracked footsteps, or the way my whiskers twitched at the faintest scent. They never knew that under my gaze, their secrets lay perilously exposed. Through catcom, Socrates' voice returned, steady as an old heartbeat. The blade is gone, but the hand that held it remains. Do not mistake victory for safety. I don't, I replied, watching a pair of insectoid envoys click their mandibles in hurried discussion. Marcus doesn't either. He knows this was only a probe. There will be others. Good. You are learning. The galaxy plays its games in long arcs. What seems small, a panel loosened, a vial of chemicals hidden, is merely a prelude. Earth is young in these halls. Many resent that youth. I stretched luxuriously, claws raking the soft fabric of the cart. My purr hummed low, not for pleasure but for thought. Yet Marcus endures. John speaks. Kate listens. You advise. I watch. That is our answer to the galaxy's disdain. Persistence. Socrates chuckled softly in my mind. You sound almost like me, Max. Careful, or you'll grow whiskers of wisdom before your time. Wisdom and sharp claws go well together. Marcus steered us into a quiet docking bay, ostensibly to check supply manifests. He crouched to examine a crate, fingers brushing the scanner pad. His posture was calm, but I felt the coiled readiness in him. He was already planning. Escape routes, blind spots, the next place assassins might crawl from. He didn't speak of it, not even to me. But I knew. His silence was his shield. He would carry his burden without complaint, just as he had carried the body to the recycler shaft. To Marcus, it was never about medals or recognition. It was about the work. About keeping John and Kate alive, even if they never realized what stalked them. That night, back in our quarters, Marcus sat at the desk with his datapad. He typed his report to Earth Command, each word precise, stripped of flourish. Recommend heightened scans of docking arms, no exposure. That was all. No mention of the strain in his shoulders, no description of the face that would haunt his sleep. Just facts. I curled at his feet, eyes glowing faintly in the low light. Through catcom, I reached for Socrates one last time. Will this ever end? Or is it always one shadow after another? The elder cat's answer was a soft purr, layered with sorrow and pride. The shadows never end, Max. But neither do we. Guardians are not meant to see the end of the road. We are meant to keep it open for others to walk. I rested my chin on my paws, letting the thought settle like dust on sunbeams. Then I will walk it with Marcus. As long as he bears the weight, I will lighten it. Socrates' presence faded, leaving only the hum of the station. Marcus shut down the datapad, leaned back, and rubbed at the scar on his wrist, a mark from wars long past. His eyes drifted to me, and for once, a smile tugged at his mouth. Small, fleeting, but real. I purred in answer, a vow in sound. For all the shadows yet to come, for all the knives that would glint unseen, we would be ready. A janitor and a cat, invisible in plain sight. The galaxy might never know our names, but it would feel our work in the silence between disasters. Because sometimes history is not written by those who shout the loudest or stand tallest in the council's halls. Sometimes it is written by the man who cleans the floor and the cat who watches the door. And together we would keep writing.